Hi there, this is Teri from stampinmagic.com. Welcome back to my channel. Today's card is this lovely floral birthday card created using our Birthday Blossom stamp set that you can find in our annual catalogue. I've used all three of the main images in this set, as well as the happy birthday sentiment. For this sample, I used Berry Burst, Crushed Curry and Garden Green ink, and I embossed everything with gold powder. The cardstock I used for the flowers and the leaves was our thick Whisper White card, but I'm going to use something different today. For today's project, I'm going to use some of our watercolour card, and I'm using my embossing buddy just to remove any static. I'm going to start by stamping my flowers, and I'm using Versamark ink, which is a sticky ink that will hold the embossing powder. Now I need 6 altogether, and I'm going to stamp these around the edge of the card to make it easier to punch them out later on. After stamping the flowers, I'll add silver embossing powder and then heat set this with my heat tool. Now I stamped one of the flowers a little too close to the edge, so I'm just restamping an extra one. Once that's done, I'm going to stamp my 6 leaves, again add my silver powder and heat set those as well. Now I can start watercolouring. I'm going to start with the leaves, and I'm using Old Olive ink. I'm just turning the ink pad upside down and squeezing it from the bottom. This transfers some ink to the top of the pad, and I can use that as a palette. Then I'm using my aqua painter, and I've just got water on the brush initially, and I'm just covering the leaves, just making that card wet, and then picking up my ink, adding it down the centre of the leaf, then I'm going to remove the excess on a piece of kitchen paper and then blend that ink from the middle of the leaf out to the edges. I've zoomed in now so you can see a bit more clearly what I'm doing. So I'm making the leaf wet just using the water from the aqua painter. So I've just squeezed it slightly to release some of that water. And then I'll pick up some ink and just add that down the centre of each leaf. And then I'll remove the excess just on that kitchen roll, and then go in again with a clean brush and just pull that ink out to the edges of each leaf. This time I'm going to use Marina Mist ink for the flowers. So again I'm squeezing that ink pad just to transfer some of the ink to the lid. Now, as with the leaves, I'm going to start by just putting down some water. So I cover the whole of the flower. Then I've picked up my Marina Mist ink and I'm just adding it mainly around the centre of the flower. Once that's done, I'll clean the excess ink off my brush, and then just using a little water I will go into each petal and pull that ink down towards the edges. Then I'm going to use Daffodil Delight ink for the centre of each flower. Once it was on there I realised it wasn't really dark enough, so I added a little Crushed Curry ink just to darken that very middle bit. Now the flower in this stamp set actually coordinates with our pansy punch. I'd forgotten this when I did my first card, so I fussy cut them all out, but the punch fits perfectly. So I'm just going to punch each of those flowers out, and then I'll hand cut the leaves. I did add another layer of ink to each of the leaves. Once they dried, I decided that they were too light for my card, so I just repeated the process again just to darken them up. So now I'll hand cut each of them out. Now I'm going to stamp my background layer. Again, because I'm embossing, I'm using my embossing buddy to remove any static from the cardstock. I'm going to use the larger floral image and stamp it in the top left and bottom right corners, and I'm going to use my Stampin' Up for placement. Now I'm going to use my permanent imaging sheets that I've created for this stamp set, and then use my Stampin' Up, hook that onto the top left corner, ink up my stamp with Versamark, and then position the stamp into that T-bar handle, and then slide it down to actually stamp the image. Then I'll cover with embossing powder and heat set with my heat tool. I have now created a video showing how to use the Stampin' Up with some hints and tips. You'll find that in my tools playlist on my channel. I'll try and remember to leave a link to it in the description below. Okay, now I can start putting this card together. I have a Marina Mist top folding base card, a layer of silver foil, and then my stamped layer. So my stamped layer will be added to the foil first. And as always, I'm using Tombow multi-purpose adhesive. I love this glue because it gives you just that few seconds of wiggle room just to adjust the position of the layer before it's finally stuck down permanently. And then I can add that to the front of my base card. There's just one final piece of stamping left to do, and that's for the sentiment. So I have my sentiment strip, and I'm going to add some temporary adhesive on the reverse just to hold it in place. Again, I'm using my embossing buddy just to remove any static. Then I'm going to use the happy birthday sentiment, and again my permanent imaging sheet that I've created from that stamp set. So I position that where I want the sentiment to be stamped, hook my Stampin' Up T-bar handle onto that top left corner, and then using Versamark I will stamp the sentiment. Then I'm going to cover with silver embossing powder, and just remove any excess bits. And then I'm going to heat emboss that. I'm going to flag cut each end of my sentiment strip. So I'm going to make a small cut up the middle, and then I'm going to come in from each point just to make that shape on each end. I'll now add dimensionals to the back of that sentiment strip, and also to two of the completed flowers. finally I can put the rest of the card together. So I'm just having a little play with the leaves and the flowers just to see where I want to place them all. Once I'm happy with everything, I'm going to save that position, and I do that by using a piece of press and seal. This is an American product, but you can buy it on Amazon in the UK. And all I've done is cut off a piece, and it's tacky on one side, so I'm pressing that over my layout, making sure that everything's stuck to it. And then I'm carefully peeling it back up, and you see it saves the position of everything. So I'm adding glue to the leaves and also the flowers that don't have the dimensionals on them. This product is pretty amazing. You get loads in a pack and it's all reusable. So once I've used this piece, I won't throw it away. I'll just keep it for the next time that I need it. Okay, so I've added all my glue, and then I'm just going to lay it back down onto my card front very carefully. I'm not pressing anything down yet, so I can still move it around slightly and tweak it. And then once I'm happy, I just press everything down so that glue will start to take hold. And then I'll carefully peel that press and seal away. And then give everything another final press to make sure it's stuck firm. Then I'm going to add my sentiment strip. So I just want that across the centre of the card. And then finally I can position those last two flowers that I added the dimensionals to. And we're almost done. The last thing I want to do is just to slightly curl up the edges to some of the petals on the flowers, just to add a little bit more dimension to the card. And we're done. So these are the two cards that I made using the same design. I'm not sure which one I prefer. Maybe the pink because it's brighter. I tend to go for bright colours rather than more subtle colours. Which one do you prefer? Leave me a comment and let me know. Thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. Bye for now.